Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to another review on The Mandalorian, Disney Plus's new Star Wars TV series. I'm Chris, joined today with George, and this is our weekly show where we're going to go through and give our opinions and discussion on each episode of Season 1, or if it's just going to be one and done series of The Mandalorian. Apologies in advance. I think I am going down with a bit of a cold, so if I sound a bit stuffy or I'm just snotty and horrible and disgusting, apologies in advance, but I'll try and keep it to a minimum. Yes, how are you doing tonight, George?
I had a banging headache yesterday, so I think there's a bit of a bug going around where we are at the minute, but I feel a lot better today. But yes, I'm excited to talk more Mandalorian.
So before we get into episode 3, which is what our review is going to be on, I'm going to go back to last week and read out a comment we had from Claudia. This was based on, I think we did a episode 1 and episode 2 combined review, so I think this is mostly centered on episode 1, but a comment was, I'm enjoying this show so far in the sense that I have decided to disregard all the nostalgia crap. However, my biggest issue with this show is Pascal's line delivery. I really don't like it. It feels very flat. He clearly didn't deliver the lines during filming, and it shows. He has the swagger down. There's no denying that, but his line delivery is weak. And then she just mentions, especially around the IG-11 scene as well, it felt very flat. She also hated the guy in the first episode that was his bounty. He did not look like a Star Wars character, and the Marvel-like humor was really annoying. But she really loves Baby Yoda. And that's the thing we were talking about before we even went live, is that everyone seems to be united under the one banner that is Baby Yoda. And I'm completely fine with that. We still don't know what's going on with Baby Yoda. It could be an absolute travesty to the Star Wars lore and Star Wars mythos when we get to the end of this series. But I think the cute factor is going to outweigh it, because I'm totally on board with Baby Yoda at this point.
I think if it died, it would probably be one of the saddest moments in the history of film and TV. I don't think they'd ever pull that trigger, but if they did, and even if they choose not to, we could always say maybe he was one of Luke Skywalker's pupils that Kylo Ren kills. There you go. That's how you really want to make Kylo Ren the ultimate villain. We could get a flash forward scene to like 10 years from now, and it's like Baby Yoda as a youngling, and he's followed in his grandfather's footsteps. Those comments are interesting. So I agreed with that weird fish guy at the beginning of episode 1. When they introduced him at the bar, it was that nervous, not talking humor. But, I'm gonna go to the loo. Oh, guns. Oh, this, and he's gonna either kill him or we knew he froze him in the end. But yeah, that was a kind of, I was really hoping he wasn't going to be along on a mission. Like, I was hoping the episode wasn't him, but he was gone in sort of the opening prologue, I guess we could say. But no, correct. I did not like that, and we haven't had any humor like that since. Pedro Pascal thing, that's the first one I've had that I quite like him. I think because he was one of my favorite Game of Thrones characters, and I even liked him in not Kick-Ass 2, Kingsman 2. I think the delivery's been all right. It feels very Clint Eastwood. We've both said, haven't we, that he hasn't got many lines, which I think works in his favor, because that thing we need is a video game villain of talking every 15, 20 seconds when he's walking around by himself. But the delivery, I'm okay with that. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I mean, I'm not overjoyed with the character. Like, I'm not going to say, like, this is going to go down in history of one of the best Star Wars protagonists out there. He's fine. He's perfectly serviceable. The thing is, the biggest draw is because everyone loved Boba Fett in the 80s, and since then, the cult following and everything. It's the look of the character. It's the gadgets. It's everything he can do. The jetpack's coming. The jetpack will be intact by episode 8. It'll be fully operational, I guarantee. But it's all the gadgets. It's all the bells and whistles. That is what the biggest draw of the Mandalorian characters are. His personality at the moment, it's very... he's a stock bounty hunter. So I can kind of see where she's coming from. I agree with that. But then also, if he had like a very exuberant and, not over the top, but more larger than life kind of personality, I don't think that would mesh with the look of the character, because even if you go back to like the original Boba Fett, the original voice actor before it was changed in the special edition, there's not massive appeal even in his line delivery. There's not really much character you can gain from that voice performance. Great voice performance. I'm not taking it away from the guy, but you know what I mean? He's just a bounty hunter. That's it. That's all there is to him. That's the long and short of it.
I think with this, we're going to obviously talk about the episode, but we know he's got that stock bounty hunter, but we know now we've got Baby Yoda as the, I want to say, MacGuffin of the series. It's brought out the whole, like, people taking the mix saying like he's going to be Father of the Year, stuff like this. That's obviously the character developments coming with the character of Baby Yoda. There's one of the last shots of this episode is one of my favorite little moments of the whole series. I know this is jumping in, but when he drops the little metal ball for him, it's going from the beginning to "Don't touch it, it's not a toy" to "Okay, you can have it." I think we're going to get him unmasked at some point. And I think we'll probably get some more details. We're slowly learning the backstory. I think by the end, again, it comes down to it being a series. I think by the end of the 8 episodes, we should have a fully fleshed out character. We've got more clues as to where the backstory lies in this, which I'm sure we're both excited about with some of the old history it showed. And we'll talk about that. It's very interesting with that. But I'm intrigued to see where it goes because it is very, I've said this before. I've never really liked Boba Fett that much. I've always preferred his dad, Jango Fett. Certainly after this episode, it feels like we're heading more towards Jango Fett than Boba Fett. We'll get
the flamethrower,
the chrome, silver. I mean, to me, Boba Fett's not, I think he's a massively overrated character. I appreciate everyone loves him from his look, but I always thought Jango was cooler. But then again, maybe it's because I was a kid when I saw Jango Fett as well. I don't really know, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, this episode, because I didn't dislike this episode, but I think that you definitely like this episode a lot more than me. I know I have made this comment before, but it felt a lot more intact in this episode this week. This feels like a video game come to life in many different ways, but mostly in terms of its pacing. I know I mentioned that I think it was episode 1 more. I really enjoyed episode 2. That's still my favorite out of the 3 that have aired so far. But this one, it almost feels like they've taken the rough outline of a script for a Boba Fett spin-off movie and possibly a script or an outline they had lying around from like a bounty hunter video game that never got off the ground, and they've merged the two. Even down to the thing where, he's going to retrieve his money. There's optional side quests. He offers him there's 3 choices here you can go after, and he chooses not to go with it. He goes with the plot quest. He gets his money. He melts it down, and he got that shoulder gauntlet the last episode that we saw. In this one now, he's acquired more. He gets a full breastplate, and it's like slowly but surely he's going to be like the most pimped out Mandalorian by the end of it. It feels like this will grant you +2 defense, +2 stamina. It felt very video game-ish when I was watching this.
He got the whole armor now, so the whole armor's on, which is something I'm happy they did because I was worried it would be 1 armor piece per episode. But when he walked into that cantina, I looked, even the knee plates and leg plates are chrome now. So at least I don't think there'll be any more designs except the backpack, which
that'll come last episode probably.
It's probably going to happen because he's Mandalorian. But
it felt like a Thieves Guild mission. Like when he goes to this, you go back to your central hub. You've got all your NPCs sort of walking around. You go and talk to the blacksmith. You go and choose which armor section you want. It felt very much like that. I could see this being a video game.
I think I could.
Yeah,
I see that like Fallout, like an RPG or something.
Yeah.
I think jumping to the end of the episode. I think now it's not the narrative. I think the opening act, whatever you want to say, I think that ended with episode 3. I think obviously I'm not trying to talk about the ending first. We'll get through to it, but I think now not the journey's beginning. We knew at the end of episode 2 he was going to fly back, collect the bounty, make the choice, hand Baby Yoda over or not, whatever they needed to do, and then it would properly kickstart. I think by the end of this episode we've got him flying into space. He's obviously not. I know I'm jumping the gun. Not betrayed them, but he's got Baby Yoda. He's made his decision. He's got his costume. I think now we're going to properly get not the art going, but we've still not met Gina Carano. We've still not met Gus from Breaking Bad. I think all of the trailer footage has been used except one thing, which I won't spoil in case we haven't seen it. And I think now we're in a vibe where everything's in kickstart. With episode 3. I know you said this is your second favorite episode, didn't you?
Yeah.
This is my favorite so far. Then it's episode 1 and episode 2, but then I've liked all 3. I thought this one with Deborah Chow, I know we're going to bring up, she's going to be directing all of Obi-Wan. Luke's given her all 6 episodes. She's going to be directing episode 7 of The Mandalorian as well. She's done either Better Call Saul or Jessica Jones, maybe both. I'm not sure which one. But to me, I thought this was the best directed one. I thought that we had our first not proper of action because we had a lot of action in episode 2, bits in episode 1. This felt like not something we've not seen before because we kind of have ish. Video gaming, as you said, you've got your character. Here's the mission. Now you're going to take out everybody in sight. But I think what this one did is that it introduced us to like this is probably how he is normally. We know on Reputation he's very good at what he does. But here's him like wiping out everybody. We got to see him, I forgot the word, disintegrate some more people, including a tiny, not Toydarian, basically Greedo species. That made me laugh quite a bit. The others didn't, but when the little green one just pops it up and he's the first to go.
Roidian, isn't it? Is it Roidian?
Rodian, that's the one.
Rodian, sorry.
It was when it was like a game. Like you've got the sight loaded, you've seen the ears pop up, you're waiting for the full body to go up, and as it goes, like you just it's over. I thought this was like probably not the action episode. I'm sure we'll get a lot more, but this felt very much like isolated. I don't want to say world building, but we learned a bit more about the Mandalorians themselves and their current status in the world. And I think this is really set us up from where it's going to progress to now. Then that's me jumping ahead too much.
Mm-hmm. I like where it's framed that, the Empire's done, like the second Death Star, the Emperor's gone, Vader's gone. And they mentioned that, and I mean, you've probably read more of the novels and you know more about the lore in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, but they talk about the only thing that's left of the Empire now are like mercenaries and a couple of generals that are scattered here and there. I think maybe Rebels went into that with some of the generals that were still out there. But I like that you've got like this small little band of stormtroopers that look like they've been through absolute shit. Maybe they were on Endor. Who knows? Maybe they got off there. I don't know what happened to them. But you've got this, it's the small little remnants. It's still there. I'm glad that it hasn't completely gone and it's still sort of clinging on. We get introduced to Werner Herzog's character again. Very mysterious character. He's just called the Client, I think. I don't think he gets a full name. I think he's just listed as the Client. And JX in the comment is saying, what do you guys think of the Scientist?
I'm surprised he survived.
Same.
I don't know if he'll be back. I could see him being in an episode, but probably being killed for letting him take Yoda. It seems like that kind of cliche of you let him get away with it, but then if you're saying he was trying to protect it, I don't really know. I don't think he'll be around much longer. I think if he comes back, it's to die.
And we've been speculating what we think, why this group, this faction want Baby Yoda, what the scientists are doing. You've looked at certain logos on outfits and everything like that. I don't know whether that was on his outfit or if it's in a clip from a future episode from the trailer that we haven't seen yet.
Current one, so it's not a spoiler. He on his like shoulder pauldron, he's got the same. It's like 2 lines, each ending pointing outwards. That's like the logo of like what the young clones had on Kamino. So there's rumors that they might be trying to clone him or something. In this episode, they discuss, well, obviously, after he hands Yoda over before he brings him back, that they extract. Well, we know via dialogue that he extracted something of him.
Yeah,
and they wanted to get rid of him, well, to kill him, basically. Which really kind of not. I mean, we know he's going to save him anyway, but that was really the case of it getting more urgent. But I don't really have an opinion on him. Like, he's just kind of there to. It's the way every scientist goes. There's a scientist that works for the villains. He's either crazy evil or he's nice, but he'll die anyway.
He felt sort of what Claudia's comment with the alien in episode 1 felt a bit out of place. I don't know if it was the way that the guy was acting or playing the character, but again, it didn't really feel.
It felt very. I don't want to say Marvel. It felt very Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got like a normal like off the street of London or something like this. Bloke's just come in, and it felt out of place. I don't know because he was with Empire people, where there's a creepy German with Werner Herzog. There's a stormtroopers. And you have this random scientist that's better over the top. But I don't massively have an opinion on him. I'm more intrigued to see what the end game is. I'm hoping Werner Herzog's character is going to come back. I'm sure he will.
I think he has to, because there's a lot more to. It feels like we haven't seen everything there is to know about the character. He's definitely a very shady character, a very mysterious character. But I think we need to know what his end goal is, who he is, why he needs this thing.
Now, I want to talk about, and I've not read all the expanded universe. I've not read a single expanded universe book, but I know the gist of how the Battle of Jakku, the first, how all that happens. So essentially, I'm just going to waffle for a minute. After Endor, pretty much the Empire's wiped out. people start, leftover stormtroopers being killed off by whoever's around. Obviously, the rebels are won. They're not in power. Small remnants of them have kind of disappeared off into the Outer Rim. There's a book trilogy called Aftermath. Again, I've not read it, but I know the gist of it. And basically, the leftover Empire all come together under this plan of the Emperor to have this big fight at Jakku. Well, not to intentionally have a fight 1 year later, but everything leads to Jakku. And obviously, that's where the fight happens, which is obviously the planet of Episode 7. But the Battle of Jakku was like the Empire's final stand, and obviously they got battered. Now, the canon from that is that a couple of leftover generals, sort of stormtroopers, officers, anyone, they all disappear into the Outer Rim again. And the only bit that's known is that through this, the First Order is born. General Hux's dad is one of these officers in the Empire. Not officers, well, he basically becomes... I'm assuming he's an Empire officer that probably becomes head of the First Order when it begins. I don't really know. So I know the gist of not where this could head towards, but these like scattered, we've got like one unit of stormtroopers with Werner Herzog in control looking for something, i.e. Baby Yoda. I've got a feeling, I'm not going to say I know where this is going, but I've got a feeling that not that this is going to tie into the First Order because that makes it feel too connected, but whether he could be incommunicado with another officer or someone that could get name dropped. Obviously, we know that Gus from Breaking Bad is the villain in the series. Haven't had him come in yet, so I think there's going to be some, I want to say, like Empire lore that comes in, which would be quite interesting to see on a visual scale. Maybe, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just reading a little bit about. I mean, I don't know if you want it spoiled or if you even know, but Gus's character's name and sort of who he is.
I think he's a TIE fighter pilot, isn't he?
So he's listed as Moff Gideon, and it's got a former governor under the Empire whose life changed after the rebels destroyed the second Death Star. So yeah, we think he's a villain, but when it says life changed, I mean he could have defected to the other side. We don't know because we've seen that in the Battlefront 2 game as well. We were mentioning this before we went live. The I forgot her name, the female protagonist and her squadron of people who were part of the Empire, and then their life was changed when the tables sort of turned after the destruction of the second Death Star.
Some go good, some go bad. So
yeah,
I'm going to assume that Gus from Breaking Bad's the villain.
He's got to be, right? Like, if they've cast him, like, not to say he's typecast, I'm sure he's a very versatile actor. I'm sure he's done a bunch of other stuff. Breaking Bad's obviously the thing we know him best for. The guy's born to play a villain. Some people just have to play a villain, and he's one of them.
He's got a proper 80s mustache in this as well. Like a proper pencil mustache. Yeah, I think he's going to be villain. I think the extraction of Yoda's DNA is ultimately what they needed. And I think they're going to come back. They're all dead. How have you survived, Mr. Scientist? We're going to kill you. That's how I think the next episode will go. Very villain cliched. But it would be a fine way of introducing him. And then I think it'll be them hunting down the Mandalorian. Whether they want to kill Baby Yoda or extract some more from him, I don't know. But I'm interested to see where it goes. And, we know that Moff in the Empire is kind of like a higher ranking person.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that he's one of these few guys that's going to help create the First Order, or at least be involved to a capacity of being in contact with other people. I've got a feeling Werner Herzog, his character name will be revealed. I mean, if they want to...
We've still seen those scenes as well with the stormtrooper helmets all on spikes. I don't know if that's going to be part of Gus's lair. I'm going to call him Gus. I know he's not called Gus, but whether that's part of his lair, whether that's a different part of an episode that we haven't seen, I'm not sure. I'm sure if you go through the trailer and you isolate it, you can look in the background and find some stuff. JXC's mentioned when you talked about the Hux stuff. General Hux's father is given a description in the book. I think it was either Aftermath or Phasma, but they literally describe Brendan Gleeson.
This is true. And this is everyone's fan casting. That there's not been any rumors of it. I think it'd be over the top. But if they wanted to bring Hux's dad into it, the only person that can play him is Brendan Gleeson, because he's the real life father of General Hux, Donald Gleeson. So if that happened, that would maybe be one of the greatest casting moments. I don't think, but as soon as people get it as well, it would click. I'm not going to spoil what happens to Hux's dad. I think read it. It's about a rise to power. Gladiator, spoiler. But I think we're going to get some. Like I said, I don't think we're going to get First Order stuff. But I think we're very much going to find out what the Empire's doing. These leftovers, and why they're doing what they're doing with Yoda. And I think that's something we'll get answered over the following episodes.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I don't know what's going to happen with the Mandalorian either, because we all were anticipating, is he going to hand over Yoda? Is he going to hand him over, come back for him? We got them answered. But like I said, now they've kind of not got a blank canvas, but he's got Baby Yoda. He's flown off to a sunset. We've got Apollo Creed and the Bounty Hunters, who we know are after him now, which was a great scene. I know that's, again, jumped the gun. Basically, this episode was John Wick 2.
Yeah. And the question is, did they finish extracting what they needed from Baby Yoda, or did he get there just in time to get him?
And this is the thing, I don't know, because they had weird like symbols, didn't you? But I've got a feeling they've got some of it and they'll want more. They'll probably realise that, did people? I mean, people know that. I mean, in the not Clone Wars, but I'm assuming that people knew that Yoda was like one of the wisest Jedi, like the Jedi knew that. But would the Empire have known of Yoda's, like known of him? Do you know what I mean?
That's a good point, because I mean, we mentioned this as well, in that it's only a very, very short amount of time between the end of Episode 3 and original trilogy, but everyone refers to the Clone Wars as this long, distant, ancient war that happened, even though it only happened like a couple of decades ago. It'd be like, a couple of decades after World War II and everyone's forgotten about it. It doesn't make any sense. So
I think with
Yoda
that,
obviously was a thing, but given how everyone seems to have forgotten everything that's transpired, maybe they wouldn't.
I think with it's not a Fallen Order spoiler, but one thing they kind of mentioned in Fallen Order is that obviously it's more Nazi history as well. Obviously, Hitler wanted to exterminate the Jews, the Holocaust. His goal was to wipe out them and knowledge of them, burning books, vice versa. And that's the parallel with the Empire, was that they kind of not explain it in Fallen Order, because obviously they don't really burn books in Star Wars, but obviously they wiped out the Jedi, and they want to wipe out anything left over, any remnants of the Jedi, followers, supporters, kyber crystals, anything related to them. Their goal was to wipe it out, which might explain why like Outer Rim people will know. I mean, you mentioned Clone Wars, and I think that's a very good segue into learning a bit more of the backstory about the Mandalorian, because we get another, again, when they're doing the armor, we get some flashbacks to when he's younger, and we have a super battle droids, droid gunships. We have them mowing down locals, assuming his parents, his village, and everything. And again, it's left it not very open-ended, but his flashback ends with a super battle droid aiming a gun at him and presuming it's going to get shot by someone or something. So I think he's got a savior out there. And I'm assuming we're going to meet this person soon, or we'll find out more in the next episode or two. But what I will say was seeing Clone Wars things as live action was amazing, especially knowing that Dave Filoni was working on this series too.
I would have liked to see more of it, I'm not going to lie, but we got like that little bit of a taste. We just showed the Super Battle Droids there. It was great to see them back. It's one of my favourite designs from the prequels. Absolutely love the Super Battle Droids. We did mention this as well. We're kind of on the same wavelength for this. Slightly different design, perhaps.
They look more like the...
Go on, sorry.
They look more like the animated Clone Wars than the live action ones.
And it's just weird because we did a side-by-side comparison as well. We brought up like the CGI rendering of what it looked like from Attack of the Clones, and it does look noticeably different. At a glance, like, casual Star Wars fan, you go, that's a Super Battle Droid, but it does look slightly different. But it's, absolutely. Seeing Clone Wars stuff again, I love when they tie it back to that stuff. Like, the prequels forever were like a taboo thing, which, obviously not as good as the original trilogy in terms of quality, storytelling and everything like that. But in terms of the lore and the backstory that it set up, it did seem for a while that Star Wars and the Disney were trying to distance themselves as much as they possibly could from, George Lucas and what he created with the prequels because of the backlash. But now I am loving that they are going back. We're getting Clone Wars in March in the UK. We're getting the new series of that. And just, even though it was like a small little fragment of a scene, and I'm sure we're going to get the full scene later on in the series, or the full explanation of his backstory. It looked very much like a kind of Moses backstory, how, these atrocities are going on and they hide the baby away so that it can be safe. It reminded me a little bit of Rogue One as well, with young Jyn, where she hides underground and then is saved by Saw Gerrera, gets brought into this cause. Did they say, because they mentioned the word foundling, don't they, in the Mandalorians? Did they take him in straight away then, and he was raised as a bounty hunter from a young age?
This is what I'm intrigued by. I'm assuming that he was saved. I mean, I'm assuming he is Mandalorian. Like, I know it can be a persona. Boba Fett's not Mandalorian, but I've got a feeling that was on Mandalore.
Mhm.
And I have a feeling that a foundling is probably either a Mandalorian orphan or just a young Mandalorian, because obviously he's saving armor for them and they're the future, so they're clearly the children of them.
Mhm.
I think that's what we're going to... I'm assuming he's been saved by someone, he's been brought in, and he's been raised by fight. I mean, everyone on Mandalore is basically a fighter, and they've always been dubbed as the best warriors around, and the Empire wiped them out, stuff like this. So what was very cool was knowing that there are still some out there and that they are lurking kind of in the shadows, in the underground, because I think one of the big reveals, they make a point, I wouldn't say politics as such, but when you've got the scene with the other Mandalorians, we found out one of which was voiced by Jon Favreau. I don't know his first name, but it ends in Vizsla, which is...
Paz Vizsla, he's credited as. I think it's this guy.
Yeah, the heavy.
Look at that.
Who we believe is the offspring of Jon Favreau's pre-Vizsla, for anyone that's watched Clone Wars. So I'm not going to spoil that arc, but one of the best arcs in there. I think it was cool seeing not the politics of it, but he was furious that he took work on for the Empire, even though the Empire's not a thing. Mm-hmm. It was the whole kind of like what's it like, blood diamonds, that kind of stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Again, very similar to 1940s. The gold was melted down and put into current. Well, their items are melted down, put into currency or gold. Exact same thing with these the armored stuff. So it was cool reading, not the world building, but it kind of builds up these people even more, because for the average, I know I've read more into a lot of others, but the average person, like I'm family, my friends, they won't know what Mandalore is, who a Mandalorian is anyway. So I think they are doing a good job, I think, of slowly educating people on them, perhaps. And I think it's, again, something, they mentioned, you can't, have you took the helmet off? No. Has the enemy took it off? No. I'm assuming the answer's going to change in the next few episodes.
On that point, I do think it's very silly that they don't take the helmet off at any point. Practically, how do they eat? I know they made a joke of that in episode 2, but I genuinely want to know, how do they eat? How do they drink? If they physically don't take that helmet off at any point, that's really, really silly to me. As a race of people, like, it maybe in battle, maybe I can understand that being like, you never lose your helmet, you never take it off, like only if you get killed or something like that. That's fair enough, but just practically in terms of everyday life, these people don't take their helmets off. Even in like the main guild and things like that. Like, I'm sure blacksmith woman could do her job better if she didn't have this small visor, causing peripheral vision. It's just very silly to me that they don't take the helmets off.
That's their culture. I think what it is,
they must be so musty underneath that helmet. It must be disgusting under there.
I think it's going to be like Judge Dredd, where like when they wake up and clock in, they probably have to put it on. And if they're going to take it off, it will be like, 10 o'clock at night when they go to sleep. Yeah. No, I get what you mean. Because it was funny episode 1 when the little kids were running around with the helmets on.
Even Vader had to wear his helmet, but even that motherfucker took it off because, guy's got to get scrubbed of his necrotic flesh or whatever it was with what's going under that suit. Even he had to eat. Like, it's just, I don't know. It felt very cosplay to me, like a room full of people dressed as Boba Fett-like characters, which I get, Boba Fett was a very popular character, so they've kind of ran with it. I know this is just like me bad-mouthing the lore and everything like that, and the Mandalorian lore is probably very, very rich and in-depth, and I never saw all the Clone Wars episodes. I know you've mentioned that there's a bunch of Mandalorian ones. It's very silly to me that they've just sort of ran with that one cool design of Boba Fett and said, let's make an entire race of these people who look cool.
Well, this is the thing, because I think, obviously for Rebels, you've got a Mandalorian that's on the main 5, and her helmet's off for like 90% of the show.
Yeah.
But she's not like betrayed the politics stuff. Yeah, I'm intrigued because they've never reinforced they're never taking the helmet off until this episode. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know that it's like, I think with the stuff with Boba and Jango Fett, it's more they have the armor of a Mandalorian as such, and obviously with these armor upgrades, he's looking more like Jango Fett than Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Now, I know that Jango Fett's costume wasn't CGI. I know that all the clones were and droids were, but I don't know if Jango's not meant to have clone, but the armor looks so much better on the Mandalorian than Jango Fett. I don't think it's because of the age of it all.
But I think it's the finish. The finish looks more sleek in this new one. Yeah.
And I know in theory it's fresh armor straight off the grill. but it reminded me of like Captain Phasma, like as probably. I mean, I say Boba Fett's a bad character. Captain Phasma is probably, to me, on par with him as being one of the worst characters in the entirety of Star Wars.
Such a shame as well with the potential.
Exactly. When you got Gwendolyn Christie as well, Phasma one of the most disappointing characters, and that is the epitome of a cool character with no. Well, I mean, yes, he gets the bounty on Han Solo. The rest of the time, did he just chill at Jabba's palace for a year? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, at least with with Jango Fett, like you had, we knew he was a good bounty hunter. He was the face of every single clone trooper in the history. I liked everything of Jango. I know that episode 2 is the weakest of the entire saga, but I loved the bits with Obi-Wan and Jango Fett, even the silly lines of Simple Man.
Trying to make his way in the universe. Yeah,
exactly.
You talk about Boba Fett though, chilling at Jabba's palace, and this is going to sort of, because I know you wanted to mention this as well. Some dodgy shenanigans going on in the underground of Star Wars, but Boba Fett was hitting on them dancer chicks in the special edition of the original trilogy, so maybe that was it. But Apollo Creed mentions massage parlors
by Twi'leks, which are like the space sluts as well.
Yeah, happy endings, I'm sure, all around at these massage parlors going on. But
if you didn't want one of them, what did you say? To have some spice, when you fly, because it was that like space weed. Like we know Death Sticks is like their probably version of not cocaine. Fuck, I've forgotten.
Heroin or something.
You want to buy some Death Sticks? Episode 2. We know that that's probably like the darkest drug in Star Wars.
Yeah,
to me, one of the funniest scenes of all the films. I don't care what people say. This spice stuff was like, it must be space weed, because by the time you get to your planet, you'll have completely forgotten. I just love that you've got not even the fact that it was brought up, it was that it was Apollo Creed doing the talking as well. Like, he didn't want him to take a job. He literally wanted him to get high and get a happy ending. It's little things like that where you realize that, this isn't like the main saga. This is like bounty hunters. This is the Outer Rim, the dodgy areas. You can bring real politics into it and all that sort of vibe. I liked the little digger. Oh, you got an issue, goes to the New Republic, and they kind of laugh at it. I liked the little thing. It's like world building, isn't it? It just adds, but it adds a bit of not reality to it.
I like that sleazy kind of side of Star Wars. We don't see it very often. Like, in the original trilogy, it's sort of that rundown kind of old Western town that you'll stroll into, like the spaceport or Jabba's palace or whatever it happens to be. And I wish we could have got to see more of this in Attack of the Clones, actually. Yes, it was very Blade Runner-like, and you could argue that maybe, from the cityscape and the design and everything, he was more or less, lifting directly from Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. But those, like, pink neon-lit nightclubs and shit that you see on Coruscant, I'd love to see more of that. Or like if anyone's played the Mass Effect games, there's nightclubs that are very similar to that kind of style. I'd like to see more of that if they ever do get into that. Whether that would mesh with this new sort of more original trilogy aesthetic that Disney have been going with now, and especially The Mandalorian, because we talked how it does almost look like you could lift this almost seamlessly and put it into the original trilogy in terms of how it looks.
Yeah, and I think with that as well. Sorry, I was looking at the comment from Dex Editor. So the purest Death Sticks come from Heisenberg. Maybe that's why Gus from Breaking Bad's on the chase. He wants his spice back. What I think was really cool with this was the bounty hunter scene where it's just a nod at the beginning of the episode. All these guys hate you. They all had the tracker to get Baby Yoda. Obviously, that's a throwaway line at the time. Now, when he saves Baby Yoda and he starts walking down a street, maybe one of my favorite shots, not even shots or scenes, whatever, it's John Wick 2. It's as he walks past the cantina, they don't even need to show him walking past it. You just get the red beeps on every single person in the room. And then you've got Carl Weathers like clocking on to what's happening. And then you've got the street moment with he's got his hand ready by a gun and everyone's looking up. And then we get the action, the fights.
Yeah.
It was John Wick 2 in Star Wars form. It was glorious. I love this. Even the bit with the little droid where it died, I felt its pain.
Oh, yeah, it screams. I was going to mention that. So there's a bunch of robot death in this episode, and I've never really understood where robots scream in Star Wars because they're droids. They shouldn't feel pain, surely. Maybe that's a whole other argument for another time. The Jabba's palace iRobot that comes out, or whatever it says when it comes out, like that just gets ripped out and dies, and it's screaming horrifically.
I love that. I always throw back to episode 6 when the fear of the Gonk droid screaming, when they burn its legs. I don't
that's it.
That as a child, it didn't scare me, but I was always kind of confused, like how it's a robot. How did it feel pain on its legs? And I was throwing up to episode 1.
You got the one getting pulled apart as well in Jabba's palace, disintegrated or whatever they call it.
And then you got episode 1 where all of the R2s get blown off, like every couple of seconds you get little screams. And I'm going to just assume at this point that in Star Wars, the droids have a bit more of a conscience than we think. I loved it. I forgot about the little head coming out. I love that little throwback to Jabba's palace. It made sense. The scream thing was funny.
I mean, it is like another nostalgia tick. It's just like, okay. I mean, it's exactly the same dialogue as well. They took from like the audio files of Return of the Jedi. There isn't even like any new thing.
Like maybe that's the bog standard Galaxy like door lock for mega door locks, a droid.
Because I thought it was speaking Huttese in the original trilogy. Like it was just programmed to speak in that. But apparently maybe Huttese is like a universal language that everyone speaks. Because apparently everyone speaks Wookiee. So...
but no, the droid stuff was funny. But it was cool to see the Mandalorians fight. Now, for a TV budget, it looked okay. I want to say that.
Yeah, no, it looked great.
I didn't actually expect that scene to come either. I guess looking back, it was probably quite obvious it was going to happen.
I thought that would come much later. I thought when they finally all join up, that would be towards the end of the season. But
endgame portals where like the Mandalorians all come in one by one.
We need to talk about that because it was very Marvel-like, wasn't it? Like, I mean, I'll pass over to you in a minute, like the links to Iron Man and everything like that. But it felt very Iron Man 3 at the end, where all the different suits show up.
Yeah, when the moment War Machine came out with the turret in the same design, the same turret, the jetpack, and I was like, it is a bit like War Machine. Obviously, then you find out it's voiced by Jon Favreau, who obviously directed the first 2. But it's the final shot of when they're flying. It's the legs, how the arms are. It's the exact like flying. It's not a criticism. I think that's got to be an intentional nod.
Yeah, it was. Because I didn't know it was Favreau doing the voice of that character when I first watched it, but I still clocked onto the reference. I was like, that's very Iron Man-like, very War Machine. Even the bit where he kind of salutes, it felt very like a nod to that. And then later on, obviously, I found out it was Favreau. I was like, well, that's just made the connection all the more clear now. Yeah,
and I think with the Mandalorians, it's cool because from the opening scene, when he delivers that the money, I guess in theory, they kind of corner him. And you don't have a vibe of, they're all Mandalorians. Do they get on? Do they dislike each other? But obviously, they kind of got their little knock on the head, like, you're all Mandalorians, like, get on with it, basically. And obviously, they've got his back, but it's cool saying, you're going to have to obviously rehome the clan now. So I'm guessing the whole we need to hide from the Empire is a big thing. But I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm sure they'll crop up again. I don't know. I mean, there's only 8 episodes. We know there's a season 2, but I'm intrigued to see the lore they develop on screen, I guess I can say. More so than them cropping it, because again, the problem with Mandalorians, it's not a faceless army. I mean, in theory it is, but by paper they're the best warriors around. So it's like the Wookiees. If the Wookiees cropped up in every Star Wars film, an army of Wookiees, you'd know in theory it's game over. And I think that was the original plan for episode 6. They were going to bring Wookiees in, but they knew within a minute if you brought in an army of Wookiees, they'd win. Obviously, we love the Ewoks anyway. So the Mandalorian, it was cool seeing action, but I'm not saying I don't want to see it again. But like, it worked for that scene of the bounty hunters, but it very much sets up, what's going to come of, I guess, the guild, because it was a bit like John Wick again. You're learning more about how the guild works, because it's not really something that's been explored. You always get told bounty hunter, collect bounty, this and that. You've never heard really about the code. It reminded of the Continental, like, no fighting on Continental grounds. You're not allowed to ask any questions once you've handed that bounty over. That was quite cool learning stuff about that. But what I liked was obviously the confrontation with the Mandalorian and Apollo Creed. I know he's got a name, but it's always going to be Apollo Creed. And obviously we had the final shot where, final scene where, he sneaks in and climbs up that rack on that spaceship very quick.
And I should have called it, but I did forget that he had the they do set it up earlier in the episode. The bounty, whatever it
Yeah,
is, like the little metal things the cash they have essentially blocks the bullets. So we're going to see him again. I'm glad they didn't kill him off. When he got shot, I was worried.
It was when he was on the floor and he had this steam coming out the body. I was like, as if they brought him in for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But then obviously, I think he knows as well. It reminds me of John Wick again, that you've got Winston, who does like John Wick, but he knows that John Wick has broke the code. That's the kind of relationship I think Carl Weathers has with Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to unsee John Wick from this.
There's consequences for stuff. And you could tell that he didn't really want to kill him. It's because there's rules and they have to abide by those rules. Yeah, it's John Wick, absolutely. I am thinking more about the ending now with the Mandalorians, and I mean, we get the initial setup where we sense this bit of a rivalry between Jon Favreau's character and Pedro Pascal's, but they essentially say that they work in shadows, kind of thing. They're this underground society. Not many people like bounty hunters now. They can't be seen in the open, yet the main character kind of walks around seemingly okay in the open a lot of the time. And then all of a sudden they just come to action. Like, how did they know he was in peril? Is there some kind of tracker? So on the one hand, I can see it being very easy. And I would have liked to have seen them build that, get to know more of the personalities more in that Mandalorian guild. We only really know the blacksmith and a little bit of dialogue with Favreau's character. We don't really know anyone else. I would have liked to have spent more time with them to make that moment more impactful, which could have perhaps come towards the end of the series. The thing is now they've done this, I don't know how they can recreate this scene with the same amount of impact that this has had.
And that's the thing, I don't know if they will either, because I'm sure they will, but I don't know if this series is going to need him to keep having other Mandalorians involved, because I think ultimately the main story is still him and Baby Yoda.
Yeah,
they've gone somewhere new, which we're going to find out next week. Which I'm going to assume Gina Carano comes into this next week. I'd be very shocked if she doesn't, because it'll be episode 4. And I think that's the thing. I think the whole point of them is that they don't come out, but they've chosen to not break their one rule, but they know that by coming out, they've all got to basically move away now, find somewhere else to go, because they kind of want to stay hidden. If that made sense. So
yeah,
what I think we'll learn more about is through flashbacks. I think when we get his backstory, I think we'll learn a bit more, not necessarily about the Mandalorians, but about the clan he's with. Then that would make it far more interesting. Because obviously, we know his parents been gunned down, but clearly someone saves him from that super battle droid. I don't think it will be the blacksmith. I think there might be other characters. Now, for anyone that has seen Clone Wars, I have a feeling that there may be a character comes back. I've forgotten her name, Katie Sackhoff.
Yes, yeah.
I just have a feeling that she's going to be in The Mandalorian. I don't know why, but I've just got a feeling that Katie Sackhoff's going to rock up because she played Bo-Katan, and she looks a little bit like her in the series, just with ginger hair, not blonde. I've got a feeling she could be involved, and that's my initial kind of bet for that going forwards.
I was trying to think of like other Star Wars characters then who it could be. Do you think it's going to be a big reveal? Do you think it could be like a massive character?
No, I don't. I think someone will have saved him. He'll get inducted into this clan. But I just think this clan, because it's Clone Wars as well, I think it's going to involve Bo-Katan. I think there could be another reveal in the series at some point. Again, I still would never have expected Baby Yoda was going to be a thing. So I think there could be some reveals to maybe pre-existing characters, or certainly a reference to them. And if we get any, I could imagine it being maybe Rebel related. I don't know. Rebel is in not Rebels, but as in like the Rebels. Not the
It'd
show.
be great if it was Forrest Whitaker again, and he's like, "Mando, come," and then it's like the same Rogue One thing. Yeah, I hope it's a big character, but if it's not, it might actually do well to not have it be a big character to keep this, because as I say, like the whole nostalgia thing and everything like that, it's cool to see people return. I mean, watching Rogue One for the first time, I lost my mind when Bail Organa showed up. Like, I love that shit. Or like Mon Mothma. You do want those big reveals, but I think that wouldn't do this series credit. I'd like it to sort of stand on its own.
Yeah, I think with like Rogue One, like their characters needed to be there for those scenes. And I think that's the same. I don't mind a reference or a name drop if it's relevant to what you're seeing on screen.
Yeah.
If it's like, I don't know, the Mandalorian gets home. Oh, have you ever heard about a Wookiee called Chewbacca? I'd be like, no, please don't. But if it's like, oh, this person saved me in the Clone Wars, and it could end up being someone from Clone Wars, I wouldn't mind that more, and I think that's more chance of that happening. I think one thing in Filoni, that a lot of Clone Wars people cropped up in Rebels, So he does like to make references, but he's always done it at the intention of the storytelling. And that's where like my trust lies with this, is that I don't feel that anyone that could appear or maybe reference, I don't think it will be for the sake of name drops. I think it will be for like the progression of characters, which is ultimately the main thing. Because the main thing I'm looking at Mandalorian is that it does stand on its own so well. I mean, it doesn't. If you show it to a normal person, obviously we know the Empire's fell, but they probably couldn't tell you what time period it's set in, and that's a question that's been asked of it. And I think that's what helps, is when it doesn't need to reference every other film that's been out to be able to move forward and be its own thing.
Yeah, and I think that hopefully that will be. I know we talked about that in our last episode when we talked about the future of Star Wars. I hope that kind of is the future of Star Wars now. I definitely do see it having more of a place on TV, more so than films now. At least give it a bit of a break before we have any more films come out. And progression, seeing where the story's going. So we're at the end of the episode. Mando's reunited with Baby Yoda. The cutest thing ever. The little baby cooing noises it was making all episode. Like, absolutely adorable. No paternal quality to me at all, but when I see Baby Yoda, oh man, it's the cutest goddamn thing. So yeah, progression. I don't know where this is going now. As we said, there's only a few more shots from the trailers that we haven't seen. Maybe that will be the next episode, and they'll keep the final 4 completely new territory. Next episode is directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, so the daughter of resident Ron Howard, who directed Solo. She's got more into directing as of late, so it'll be cool to see her take, and I hope it's a good episode. And it's actually nice to have a TV show. It's very different now. The whole TV landscape, the last few years, very different. It's nice to have a series to look forward to each week, to speculate about in those in-between weeks. And they haven't just dumped out 8 episodes of Mandalorian to go and binge watch.
And that's the thing. Like, I love binging a show on Netflix. I think we all do. But I think truly, not the art of TV, but if you release, I mean, it could become shit Mandalorian. If you release 8 crap episodes on the same day, no one cares. Game of Thrones season 8, even though it was bad, everyone was still talking about it for 5 weeks during airing and after. Obviously, not good talk, but you know what I mean. And I think ultimately, Disney have done the right thing by choosing, because obviously each streaming service has a choice. Do you release them all, or do you do them weekly? I think Amazon switch it up based on what show comes out where. But I think for something like The Mandalorian, where there's so many talking points, there's so much lore, there's history, it's Star Wars, I think the weekly format works better, but it also creates more audience for it, word of mouth. You know, the entire world is talking about Baby Yoda. If it came out 2 weeks ago, you'd have seen every bit of Baby Yoda there is to see. So I do, you know, even though I prefer watching 8 episodes together, for the experience of watching a show live, I do prefer it on that weekly basis, and certainly for this one, it's working. Now, something like Clone Wars, which is, you know, it's animated, it's 20 minutes each, it's had a track history of, you know, shorter episodes being story arcs. So with that, I'd happily have it all drop at once.
What about an Obi-Wan series? Would you like that to be one big contained story?
No, weekly. I want to talk about Ewan McGregor for 6 weeks straight. I want episode 1 to be the most, like, you know, like how depressing Joker was?
Yeah.
I want something like that, of like just this lonesome Jedi that just hates his life and everything. I want the most depressed Ewan McGregor in the world. Not as in to take the piss, but like, because I think that's the way that show needs to be. And I don't think that, I think the point of that show is, you know, they want to big up how long he's in a desert for, at least like air it sparingly. If you drop 6 episodes, I'm sure, you know, I'd still watch them all. I'm probably going to watch all 8 episodes of this together again when it finishes anyway. But I think for this format, I think it works better. Now, something like Marvel, I wouldn't want to wait weekly for, because it's just another, you know, I'm not to get into like Disney Plus talks. We kind of did this last time, but Marvel, you kind of, if you're going to have to watch a film, then do 8 weeks of one series to then watch another film to do another 8 weeks of TV. That's a bit too much.
A lifestyle at that point.
Yeah, and that thing, like, although we've got Fallen Order, although we've got episode 9 coming, you know, this is episode 8.5 with 6 episodes and episode 9 at the cinema. This is its own thing in the Star Wars world. And I think that helps it being able to be a weekly show as well. And I think Disney have done the right thing, because also it creates word of mouth. And, you know, when Disney Plus does launch in March, I mean, they're going to get so much money anyway. But I think there'll be people that may have question marks over subscribing that may think, well, they've done this show that was great, so maybe we will subscribe. Because ultimately, there is a streaming war happening, and there's like 10 different streaming services these days. I want to say. I mean, I don't
There'll
pay
be more coming as well. There'll be more.
Is it
It's the
HBO?
future.
Like 3 different streaming services, which makes no sense at all. It's going to get to a point where people obviously can. The great thing about Netflix is you can cancel it, no questions asked, and then just resubscribe. And you need to. I don't think all of them lock you in for long periods of time. But certainly, these companies, they're all fighting one another for this, streaming service kind of. I mean, Disney Plus naturally with the content they have and the properties they own is going to be the juggernaut. And if they want to dethrone Netflix, their first show is certainly a good thing. And we haven't even seen any of the Jeff Goldblum show yet. Unfortunately, the High School Musical show. There's a lot of things coming out. They're doing documentaries. They're doing specials. Disney Plus is looking like it's actually going to be a lot different to what I thought it was at the time of them announcing it. Whereas Netflix, Netflix is starting to do well. The films, Irishman, Dolomites. Obviously, got Stranger Things for TV. Amazon are the ones that they don't really care about their stuff because they still make money through selling things otherwise. But I think the war is going to come down to Netflix in a couple of years, and I'm intrigued to see how other streaming services react to Disney Plus, or whether they'll start going for more expensive productions and pumping the money in.
Well, we're seeing that with Lord of the Rings with Amazon as well. I think that's the highest budget TV show ever. I think they've already outlined 5 seasons or something like that. Absolutely absurd budget. Even more than Game of Thrones. We've got the new Game of Thrones prequel series coming out, which probably might even have more of a budget than Game of Thrones. We don't know.
And that's Amazon, HBO versus Disney as well, versus Netflix versus, there's going to be so much happening. And, someone said that I wanted, I mean, we don't really have cable over here, so I can't really make a fair comparison, but you just have to pay for cable. Obviously, here you've got Sky or BT. Then you have to pay for channels on top of that, like BT Sport if you have Sky, vice versa. It creates a big market, and ultimately you can only really have 1 or 2 at a push. To me, Disney doing bundles that are knocking the competition out. Is it like $13 a month? We don't, obviously over here, we don't have Hulu or ESPN, but in America, I think they're a big thing. Those 3 for $12, that's like the same price as I think Netflix and HD. So I'm going to be intrigued to see how it shapes it. But I think, pumping out a show like The Mandalorian, they could have easily dropped 8 episodes. Like The Boys. The Boys has been amazing in America, on Amazon, sorry. And Series 2 is coming out. And obviously all 8 episodes dropped together. It worked for that. I think naturally the size of Star Wars as a property as well, you kind of want it to last longer because it can get, if you've got a really good show but not many people see it, it's going to be harder to get people talking. So you drop the entire series. When you've got something you don't even really need to market, you could just slap the word The Mandalorian on and people would still have watched it. I'm intrigued that this weekly episode structures, I think, is like working a lot better than I actually thought it would.
Yeah. Same. And it's nice to look forward to as well. It's like, it's my Friday night ritual now, like getting from work, put on The Mandalorian, and it's something to look forward to. And I honestly can't remember the last TV show that I've done that for. Yes, like with Netflix and stuff where you have stuff to binge watch, you might watch it over a couple of days, depending on your schedule and things like that. But in terms of weekly, doing discussions on it, thinking about it, speculating, wondering where it's going to go. You never really have the opportunity to do that with TV shows now, because in 8 hours you could have gone through the entire series and you've got all the answers you need anyway. So I am liking it. It's paced nicely and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I feel like I see this again. I think I need to see the entire story unfolded to give a complete season 1 review, which I'm sure we'll do in a few weeks' time anyway. But yeah, that'll do. I've pretty much said everything I can on episode 3. It's not my favorite episode. I say it's my second favorite so far. I still preferred 2. It felt like it had more of a contained plot, and I enjoyed some of the creative action in that one with the Jawas and everything like that. But yeah, I've said pretty much everything. If you've got anything else or closing words on it.
Same here. I'm ready for episode 4.
Bring it on. So we're going to try. I know that we were a couple of days past schedule on this one. We were going to try and aim for it every Friday. It's probably going to be the weekend again at some point next week. Reason being, I was working late on Friday. I think I'm working again late next Friday. So just look for it anytime in between Friday and Sunday. Look for the notifications and everything like that. Hit the bell, all that good stuff. Subscribe, and we'll be back next week with episode 4 review of The Mandalorian. So until then, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.